Welcome in Deseret News Rewind. Dusty Litster, Dane, Stewart, as always, presented by Heinemann Associates, brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard, outfitted by Black Clover. My mental performance is working. Riley Jensen and RileyJensenConsulting.com. Hit them up, get some help, and your performance is going to improve in clutch time like the playoffs. That's all I can say, because regular season I was struggling like you wouldn't believe, and Riley Jensen's helping get things right for me as well. All right, let's get into this. We're going to be picking semifinal games, and this is going to be very, very interesting. Let's start first in 4A. Not going to waste any time. We have 6 games to pick. We want to talk about them as well. Let's go with the first 4A game in the bracket, Skyview versus Ridgeline. Obviously, a region matchup. This game was a barn burner the first time around. This Skyview offense, Dane, didn't have anything going. It was all special teams and defense scoring for Skyview until overtime. They kick a field goal to win. Can Ridgeline get after Skyview in the second matchup?
Well, Dusty, that was a great contest. And, I know a lot of people are going to be interested in my opinion about this game because, this is my 4A bracket, and that's about how it's gone for me. But, when you look at this, you think about how close that game was. Not a lot of defense has been able to slow down Carlson and company. And, you were one of the first to jump on Isaac Larson and the year that he would have, the way he'd be able to contribute for this Skyview team. And it's not just offensively. We've seen him with the special teams unit as well, made big contributions all year long. And Ridgeline was ready for that. What are they going to do? Can they repeat that? Or did Skyview recognize some things that maybe they could approach or attack differently? It's going to be interesting because, Ridgeline, you look at what they've had to go through lately. They've had some tight contests. They had to kind of grit one out against Green Canyon and hold on late in the year where the Wolves were making a late charge. You look at even in the quarterfinals against Park City and had to put together a game-winning drive, go down and win it. So this is a battle-tested team. And, it's going to me, I think that favors or that gives them a little bit of an edge in this one. They lost the early matchup, but it was right there for them, right there for the taking. And then you think about they've had tight contests. They've had to learn how to win them close. But, Dusty, I picked Skyview originally. So I think for me, I still am going to go with the Skyview Bobcats. But if there's a team that can, if there's a team that can get them, I think there's a couple. But Ridgeline is one of them. I'm going to stay with Skyview, though. I'm going to take the Bobcats, Carlson and company. I think they've been there. They know what they're doing. I think that they're going to be a team that's going to be able to, take some lessons from that first go-around. They've got the second longest winning streak in the state going, Dusty. So I'm going to ride with the boys from Smithfield. I'm going to take the Bobcats.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, because that first matchup was – that's about the offense really stalled and was stopped by Ridgeline. And that game against against Park City for Ridgeline on Friday night was unlike most of the games they had all season long because they were all low-scoring contests. That region was low-scoring contests, especially if you played against Mountain Crest for the most part, and other games against Bear River and others. Were all low-scoring contests, and all of a sudden they got into a match with Park City where they had to go score for score in a seesaw battle. They're able to do it, and there's something about that I think that builds a team. But when you look at Skyview, since that Ridgeline game, it has been Skyview taking care of business. They had that scare in the regular season, and they took whatever they needed to learn. They took whatever lumps they had, and they got things figured out. I'm staying with Skyview as well, mainly because I picked them to win a 4A state championship, to be back-to-back champions. And I'm not just ditching them right now because I might have a wayward thinking moment. So I agree with you. I think Skyview takes that one too. So I'll stick with the Bobcats as much as Ridgeline might not like that. But this is the new Mountain Crest Skyview matchup.
Yeah. And here's another note, Dusty. Because you talk about how low scoring this region has been. You ready for a fun fact?
I love fun facts.
Realize the #1 defense in that region is owned by the Skyview Bobcats. Just saying. Just so
you know, Cedar City was going down to score down 14-0 at the 1-yard line. Pick 6 by one Mr. Isaac Larson. Yep. Not giving up points just to give up points, folks. Let's go to the others. Well, let's go to the bottom of the state. We're at the top of the state. Let's now go to the bottom of the state. Pineview versus Snow Canyon Part 2. And this game was a terrific one in the first matchup. And I promise it's going to be a terrific one once again down in St. George.
Boy, it certainly is. And Dusty, we had high expectations for this Snow Canyon team coming in. We knew how much talent they returned in Fry and company and knew that they would be a challenge. For me, and I've said this before here, I'll own it. I didn't know that Pineview was going to be as good as they've been. You know, you graduate Croton, how good he has been as the quarterback there, all the yards that he put together, and then in comes Braden Bunnell. And to me, you know, we don't get down to see a lot of St. George games. And I mean, you get to see some of them on Deseret News Rewind Live, but I didn't quite know what Bunnell was going to be. He has been absolutely spectacular this year for Pineview. And you look at that first matchup, Dusty, these two quarterbacks, I mean, very different overall contests, just in terms of their total yardage through the air. But you know what? Bunnell threw for 2 touchdowns. Fry threw for 2 touchdowns. And they were able to help contribute offensively in similar ways. This was a 1-point win for Pineview, 36-35. And really outside of those passing yards, the rushing attacks appeared to be very similar in what they were able to do. There's a pick 6 that kind of helped keep Snow Canyon in. It actually gave them an early lead in this contest. And so what can they do to help with, you know, defense, special teams, to help keep them scoring at a pace? Because I'll tell you, like, I haven't seen a lot of Pineview. Saw their highlights against Bear River. Dominic McKenzie is a problem. Like, he's a problem to match up with. He's big, he's tall, he's long, he's got great speed. You're not chasing him down in the open field. And then you got Takao, as Dusty likes to put it, that'll just come up and knock you over. This Pineview offense can be physical. They can attack you with speed. They're going to be tough to slow down. Snow Canyon, in my mind, is going to have to try to find a way to keep up the scoring pace with them. They've got the options to do it. Can they do it for a second time? I think that's going to be the big question in my mind.
So who do you have winning this one?
Well, I'm going to go with Pineview. I think they just have a lot of options. Bunnell's been fantastic. You know, if he can take care of the football, right, not give Snow Canyon extra possessions, extra opportunities, I think it's going to be hard for Snow Canyon to stay with him. I'm going to go with the Panthers.
You know, the most interesting thing about this Snow Canyon team, you know who the one common thread is in all their games and all the success they've had offensively? Their quarterback, Landon Fry, because every other week it's somebody else. It's Bretton Stone, it's Hill, Bo Hickman. You know, this last week it's other guys that step up as well for Snow Canyon. And what Coach Tim Nowatzki's doing on that offense, you don't know who to stop. And that, to me, all of a sudden, I start thinking about maybe I jumped the gun here on what I was going to do in my 4A state championship pick. Now, granted, I actually misspoke. Vince, yes or no, he needs to help me out here, because I said I took Skyview. I didn't. I think I took Kotazna and the Pineview Panthers in my 4A state championship pick. I am really, really leaning Snow Canyon on this one. And but I won't. I will hold off. I'll hold off. I'm like right there. I really am. I think these are 2 spectacular semifinal games. I'll stick with Pineview, but I think Snow Canyon, I mean, it was a 1-point loss, and Snow Canyon's playing good football too, and beating Stansbury says something to me. Nah, I'll stay. I'll stay. I'm really close. I am so close.
Warrior Nation is disappointed in you, Dusty. What happens if they wear the blacks? Is that enough to sway you?
They're on the road. They can't do it. I thought about it. I was going to make a thing. Hey, you wear the blacks, I got you. But they can't. They're on the road. Maybe they go with the black pants. Maybe they go black pants. I might jump into that bandwagon. Well, I'm already on the bandwagon, but if I'm going to kid them doing that one, I'll go Pineview, but give them some bulletin board material. Let's go 5A. Timpview and Salem Hills, a former region matchup back in the day when Timpview was in Region 8. But Timpview, Salem Hills.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember my 5A bracket. I think I actually took Salem Hills over Brighton in this contest, if I recall correctly. And I'll tell you, I mean, I think Salem Hills, you know, facing Timpview is a little bit of a different demon. And, you know, Region 8 has been really strong this year. We've talked about that all year, how good Maple Mountain and Wasatch and Salem Hills, and they've all been fantastic this year. But what are you going to do against the physicality of Timpview? And, you know, you look at guys like Feely on that defensive front. There are other guys up there that just create havoc. There are problems to block. There are problems to give your quarterback time. What's Elmer going to do? How's he going to have time to find options down the field? Is he going to have the escapability, the athleticism to get around that pass rush and scramble, you know, for big yards or to move the chains or to get in the end zone? I just don't know that this Salem Hills team has played a defense like Timpview. That being said, this Timpview offense, I think they have figured out who they are. They've got the pieces together. If they can take care of the football, not turn it over, not give Salem Hills extra possessions, I'm going to take Timpview close. I'm going to go with the T-Birds in this one if they can play a clean game.
You know, it's interesting because last year Salem Hills came in the number 1 seed in the 5A state tournament. They lost to Orem in the semifinals. And we all kind of, I wouldn't say expected it, but we expected it, right? Orem was not the number 1 seed. They're like number 10. It was the first year of the RPI and all kinds of stuff happened. Yeah, I think Salem Hills is legitimately right there with Timpview. I mean, right there with Timpview. And you know what? Dusty versus Dane on everything else. Let's go Dusty versus Dane on this one. I'm going to go throw in with Salem Hills. And you know, if I'm going to talk about Jared Elmer and everything else he brings, I need to talk about it here. 5 touchdowns. This kid does everything for Salem Hills. And here's the other part. Timpview, you better score. Because Salem Hills is going to score. They're going to play physical brand of football, but they are going to score. But I'm going to go with the Skyhawks going to their first ever state championship football game over TS Tribe. And that breaks my heart to say it in some ways. But if that, again, bulletin board material, now Raider DeMooney can do his Dane Stewart impression for us. And he can do it because he's happy with Dane and mad at Dusty. So it'll be good. This will be good. Orem versus Maple Mountain.
Well, Dusty, there's a lot of storylines here. This was a game that schools were trying to get set up. And if it wasn't for some administration challenges, this game might have been played already. You know, I think a lot of this game really relies on the health of Tyler Nelson. What is his status going to be? And I don't know if you have an indication of what that is. I know that he left that quarterfinal game early. But if they need, my opinion, they need Nelson in this contest because this Orem team, talked about it last week a little bit, right? You go a month without having a contest. Well, what does that allow? It allows you to get healthy. It allows you to get in all your summer workouts that you never had. And this Orem team has looked like they have used that to help gain momentum because they have come into this playoff and they have taken care of business against everybody they've gone up against. We talk about how good that offense has looked, and you have a healthy receiving core right now. You've got Faye who's back identifying ready defense, getting the ball out. You know, he was really, in my mind, the unsung hero of that state championship team last year. Yeah, they had Noah Sewell who would go and just truck guys over, but Faye made key plays when he needed to make them. And he did a great job of leading that offense. Didn't worry too much about himself, was just going to go out and execute. And I think he's really taken that approach in this, his senior campaign. And I think it's leading big things for Orem. Defensively, you look at Ayu, you look at Skips, you look at what that defensive front does, they'll get after you. And I think the Maple Mountain, they're going to need that experience in Nelson to be able to read that and get the ball away quickly. I don't know how well Maple Mountain's going to be able to handle that Orem defense. And so for me, I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say Maple Mountain because we were on them early. But look, this is as far as anybody would ever pick them to get to. This has been a spectacular year for Maple Mountain. Mentioned their second semifinal in school history. And so much to be playing for, and maybe they need a little bit more. But this is Orem's classification until someone takes it away from them. And I'm not going to begin to say, yeah, here's the team that's going to do it, because the moment you do it, you know you're going to be wrong. And I'm not being willing to be the one to say that. And I think this could be an interesting game. I think Maple Mountain's got enough heart. They've been our, Riley Jet Smith performance of the week twice with what they've been able to do, and maybe they have it in them, and hopefully they have it in them to make the run, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going to go with Orem getting back to the 5A state championship game as well. All right, let's go 6A, the Biggins, East Corner Canyon.
Well, Dusty, so I did East and American Fork this last week, saw that game, and, so impressed with the defensive effort the East put together. They did a great job of taking away some of the down-the-field threats in that AF passing attack. And they were able to get Madsen out on the run and, really try to disrupt some of the timing that comes with that AF offense. We've seen similar defenses really try to bottle up Jackson Dart this year, but he's always had a way to kind of circle the wagons and to work through it. And when we think about Corner Canyon, the best thing that could have happened for the Chargers this year were the Lone Peak and the Skyridge games, because they had to figure out ways to win games late, to come back, to work through adversity, and to put something together, and they did it. I think this East pass rush, I said it last week, they can be a bear to deal with. They might be here again. Corner Canyon has a really experienced offensive line. I mean, if there's an offensive line that can deal with East up front, it's going to be Corner Canyon in 6A. So, what can they do to provide Dart some time? Can he establish a bit of a running game? I still feel like that's important for Corner Canyon. There are going to be defenses they're not going to be able to count on throwing 6-7 touchdown passes on a given Friday against, and this East defense might be one of those. So can they establish a ground attack in this one, have a form of balance? To me, I just think there's too many offensive weapons for Corner Canyon. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
It's interesting on this one too, because, you think, well, finally, a different matchup. You ready for a fun fact?
I love fun facts.
2 state tournaments in the RPI state tournaments for Corner Canyon. This game, if they were to lose or win, will be the only game that was not a repeat game of their regular season schedule.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting because it's been a few years since Eric Kerr and Brandon Maddich went head-to-head, because they did every year. Jordan East would play. Dane played a game that never happened. Or probably Dane called a game that never happened. And with Austin Fences and crew with an issue at the field. So these two coaches do know each other. This isn't new to them, although this is a different component that that Corner Canyon has not had to deal with in playing against an offense like East, because that just doesn't exist in anywhere else but East and at West, about having to see this kind of game. So I think there's something to it, and East is riding high. You go knock off AF, riding high. I don't care how high you're riding. You're going against Jackson Dart, Corner Canyon, Eric Kerr, and it just might not be enough. I got the Corner Canyon Chargers as well. Look, I've been the head of the Corner Canyon bandwagon for years now. I'm not about to give up my seat yet. You're going to have to take it from me. But yeah, I'm going to go Corner Canyon over East. All right, Lone Peak.
Can I give you a fun fact? Can I give you a fun fact real quick? These two teams have played once, Dusty, in the playoffs, quarterfinals, 2013, 59-10 East. I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah, different coaching.
That's next level. That's next level analysis coming at you right here.
Mattis is the only common denominator in that one. So
yeah,
that's a good one though. All right, Lone Peak, Skyridge. Lone Peak took the first matchup. Remember, that was the week before the Corner Canyon game for Skyridge. And can Lone Peak take him out again?
Yeah, Dusty, I mean, that was one of our games of the week this year, was Lone Peak and Skyridge. And, it was one where you kind of wondered if that hung over a little bit for Skyridge. And Lone Peak was actually coming off the loss to Corner Canyon. And so you had a really focused Lone Peak team, and you had a Skyridge team that I don't want to say they were overlooking Lone Peak, but they certainly didn't look as sharp as we had seen earlier in the season from them. And you just kind of wonder how much that factored into it. And going into that as well, Dusty, would you have the McKay Hillstead injury? Now, that happened after Lone Peak had a bit of a lead, but it made it all the more challenging for Skyridge to try to come back in that contest. So, I don't expect this to play out 37-20 like we saw in the regular season in favor of the Knights. That being said, this pass rush for Lone Peak is so impressive. And, they are going to try to get to Hillstead. They're going to try to disrupt things for him. They're going to try to throw off some of the timing of those routes. And they've gone up against these sort of offenses before. AF has some similar components in their offense as what Skyridge will like to do. And, that was a ball game. That was a tightly contested ball game coming down to the last possession. Lone Peak was able to win that out. I think this game plays much more along those types of lines than what we saw in the regular season. But the key to me is going to be Lone Peak establishing the running attack. And whether that's with Hamuli, or it's with Cloward, or it's Willits, or it's whomever, which we haven't seen Willits. I'm not even sure if he's healthy. We've largely seen Cloward and company. Okay, we've largely seen Cloward and company get some of those rushing touchdowns, and that's a bit of a new addition. That wasn't there midseason when these two teams played. So can Lone Peak establish that running attack? I think that's going to be critical for them to get a win here. It was the primary way that they moved the football. Remember, I think this might have been Luke Durfee's coming out party. It might have been the first time that I saw Durfee run out of the backfield was against Skyward, had a rushing touchdown. I picked Lone Peak in my bracketology. I'm going to stay with the Knights here. I think Coach Denny's going to have some special packages for Hillstead. He's gone up against this offense a couple times now. I think they've got the pieces to be able to slow down Skyridge down the field, contain Hillstead. I don't know that Skyridge is going to be able to put up enough points, but that Skyridge defense, if they can keep Lone Peak within 24, this is going to be a ball game.
It's interesting because you always talk about teams that need a carrot. Skyridge doesn't just have one carrot; they've got two carrots, and it would be beating Lone Peak and then potentially getting a shot at Corner Canyon to right those wrongs. And only have to give Skyridge their third trip to the state championship game and a chance to win their first state championship in football. That is, I don't want to say enough, but we talk about the matter team wins sometimes. McKay Hillstead's got something to prove. That defense has something to prove. And overall, for Skyridge, they were beaten and they were out physical. Didn't think we'd say that this year about Skyridge. You might say that they might lose, that's fine, but not just get out physical. And they were. Lone Peak out physical them in that ball game, took it to them, and I think there's something in it for them now. I'm sticking with Skyridge. I picked them to get the state championship game. I will stay there, and it's not just for Dusty versus Dane. It's gonna be one of those ones. I think there's just enough out there for Skyridge to get going in this team. Jeter Fenton, we talk about McKay Hillstead. If Jeter Fenton gets going, they can get that young man going. It'll set up everything for the Skyridge Falcons in this one. Well, who do you got getting to the 4A, 5A, and 6A state championship games? Hit us up on Twitter. We want to hear from you. If you beat us, we might talk about it. But let us know what you think. Hit us up again at D-News Rewind. Dane_Stewart at Dusty Litster. Love to hear from you. We're excited to be able to get to the semifinal weeks. Hey, by the way, tip of the cap to you, our fans in the state of Utah. Got us here. Week 4, we got all the way here. But just finish it. Let's finish it right with the teams who win. Make sure they get to the state championship game. For Vince Francis, Dane Stewart, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us and watching Deseret News Rewind on Deseret.com.